Greetings from Alexandria.
I'm finally here, in the last capital of the Pharaohs, a mighty city that for hundreds of years was the center of the Mediterranean world. Today we'll follow in the footsteps of those who have searched for the tomb of Cleopatra VII, the last true pharaoh of Egypt. Cleopatra, who's never been found, just as the other Ptolemaic rulers. We're heading 45 kilometers west of Alexandria, to the small town of Abu Sir, situated between the seashore and Lake Mareotis. Atop the limestone ridge of Tinia that separates the sea from the lake stand the ancient ruins of Taposiris Magna. The finest ancient monument left to us north of the pyramids. A site where the most important archaeological find of the 21st century may soon take place. Let's go! The Greek name Taposiris Magna means Great Tomb of Osiris. According to the Greek historian from the 2nd century AD, Plutarch, there's no doubt that this is where the god of the dead was buried. The current name of the town, Abu Sir, comes from the ancient Egyptian name, Bouwasir, place of Osiris. Today in Egypt there are many towns with this name, which isn't surprising given the popularity of the Osirian religion in antiquity. So let's not confuse this Abu Sir with, for example, the famous royal necropolis of Memphis from the 5th dynasty. The city was most likely founded by Ptolemy II Philadelphus. Foundation tablets discovered here suggest that construction of the Temple of Osiris began during the reign of Ptolemy IV Philopator, the 4th Ptolemaic pharaoh from the 3rd century BC. The city's port function, and above all its role as a gateway to Alexandria, a collection point for customs for traders arriving from the west, made Taposiris Magna an important and wealthy center of Ptolemaic, Roman, and ultimately Byzantine Egypt. It seems that it lost its importance only with the Arab conquest. Although the Temple of Osiris itself no longer exists, the high massive walls surrounding its enclosure are well preserved. The sanctuary must have once resembled other important Ptolemaic temples, built according to traditional design, such as those I've already shown you at Edfu, Esna, Philae and Komombo. Among the Egyptian-style pylons and walls, the remains of a purely Greek-style sanctuary were found here, the only such Greek temple discovered in Egypt. We see remains of its Doric columns and other small fragments. The entire complex must have been an important center of worship for the local triad: Osiris Serapis, lord of the lake Apollo Mareotis, and of course Isis. In fact, it was the largest center of Isis worship in the Alexandria region. Interestingly, even on the Greek island of Delos and in distant Italy, offerings were made to Isis of Taposiris. Although the area isn't officially open yet, I was fortunate enough to film it for you. Taposiris Magna continues to excite people around the world. That's because, according to many scholars and Egyptian authorities, it should contain the lost tomb of probably the most famous woman of the ancient world, Cleopatra VII Thea Philopator, the last Ptolemaic ruler. From 51 BC, ruling over a plunged into political chaos Egypt, she, as is widely known, managed to arouse the passions of two powerful Romans, on whom the fate of her country depended: Julius Caesar, with whom she had a son, Caesarion, and Mark Antony, who was her lover for 14 years and fathered 3 more children with her. As Mark Antony's companion and ally, Cleopatra was a party to the final civil war of the Roman Republic. After the crushing defeat at the naval battle of Actium in 31 BC and Antony's death, the victorious Octavian informed Cleopatra that, like a living trophy, the queen would add splendor to his triumph in Rome. Unable to bear the thought of this humiliation, on the 12th of August, 30 BC, Cleopatra, dressed in royal robes and wearing a uraeus-adorned diadem on her forehead, lay down on her golden bed, never to rise again. According to tradition, an Egyptian cobra was brought to her, hidden in a basket of figs, so the queen could die from its bite. She took her own life at the age of 39, in the 22nd year of her reign. After her death, her son Caesarion was proclaimed pharaoh, but he was soon executed on Octavian's orders. Octavian annexed Egypt as a Roman province, and subsequent Roman emperors never called themselves pharaohs, although the Egyptian priesthood still titled them so, up until the 4th century. Plutarch, in his work The Life of Antony, wrote, "She had a tomb and monument built surpassingly lofty and beautiful, which she had erected near the temple of Isis, collected there the most valuable of the royal treasures, gold, silver, emeralds, pearls, ebony, ivory, and cinnamon. And besides all this, she put there great quantities of torchwood and tow, so that Caesar, that is Octavian, was anxious about the reason, and fearing lest the woman might become desperate and burn up and destroy this wealth. According to the 2nd century AD Roman historian Cassius Dio, the treasures collected by Cleopatra eventually ended up in Roman hands. Quote, "In the palace, quantities of treasure were found, for Cleopatra had taken practically all the offerings from even the holiest shrines, and so helped the Romans swell their spoils without incurring any defilement on their own part." So we know that her tomb is unlikely to contain treasures and that she was buried near some temple of Isis. It's believed that Octavian, the later ruler of Rome, permitted the joint burial of the two lovers, in keeping with their royal status. However, it couldn't be a monumental tomb that might have served later as a symbol of resistance against Octavian. The tomb was rather modest and well hidden. And this is the main problem. None of the ancient texts mention the queen's burial place.
This entire area measures 84 square meters, and these walls, huge as you can see, were in some parts up to 10 meters in height.
Almost no trace of the Temple of Osiris remains. At some point, it was deliberately demolished by the Romans to transform the sanctuary into a garrison fortress. The columns from the sanctuary were used to raise the defensive walls. Remains of a Christian church have been found here, which probably replaced the temple in the 4th century. The entire area became a monastery in Byzantine times. And it's no wonder that in later centuries, these thick walls once again served as a fortress and caravanserai for caravans heading to Alexandria from the west. But what does this place have to do with Cleopatra? Until now, it was believed she was buried in a palace in Alexandria's great harbor on the island of Antirodos. The sunken island, with its palace and the remains of the Temple of Isis, was discovered by Frank Godiot, a French maritime archaeologist, famous, among others, for his discovery of the sunken city of Heraklion in 1999. If Cleopatra was buried there, her tomb would have been lost to us forever. Another theory was put forward by Dominican archaeologist Kathleen Martinez. Cleopatra may have been buried in a ruined temple near the desert city of Taposiris Magna, most likely beneath the local temple of Isis. Martinez has already investigated other temples of Isis in Egypt for this purpose, but for the past 20 years she's been searching for a tomb at this site. So far, she has found a beautiful carved head of Cleopatra, along with dozens of coins bearing her image, as well as pottery, gold jewelry, and damaged statues, likely broken by early Christians. As you can see, there are plenty of deep shafts and underground tunnels here. Fortunately, not all entrances to the underground are closed. Greek baths dating back to the 2nd century BC have been discovered here. And below the Temple of Osiris, a small cemetery of mummified animals. Of course, the most famous discovery was made quite recently, in 2022. Martinez found a narrow tunnel 2 meters high and 1,300 meters long. It lies approximately 13 meters underground, beneath the temple. Close to visitors, of course, the tunnel could potentially lead to Cleopatra's tomb. However, it's much more than just a secret passage. The tunnel stretches from the southern slopes of a limestone ridge to the shore of the Mediterranean Sea in the north. The tunnel's purpose was likely to equalize the lake's water level by shifting it towards the sea during periods of flooding and, when necessary, in the opposite direction, from the sea to the lake. The tunnel appears to be modeled after the famous Eupelinus tunnel from the 6th century BC, which on the Greek island of Samos served for 1,000 years as an aqueduct. During Cleopatra's lifetime, Taposiris Magna, located between the Mediterranean Sea and Lake Myriotis, was an important port city, but was also famous for its grapevines. According to Herodotus himself, wine was supposedly invented in this area. In classical times, the lake's water was sweet, drawn from the canopic branch of the Nile and other tributaries. This made the surrounding area fertile and conducive to agriculture, especially cultivation of grapes. The city was renowned for producing the finest wines, as evidenced by archaeological discoveries. The Greek geographer Strabo, after his trip to Egypt in 25 BC, described a large public festival, likely in honor of the god Osiris. On the local rocky beach, crowds of wine-intoxicated worshippers are said to have gathered. And indeed, a processional route has been discovered here, running through the main temple to the seashore. About 500 meters northwest of the temple complex, an ancient tower marks the site of one of the Hellenistic cemeteries of Taposiris Magna. It's a remarkable, picturesque place. In the scorching sun, we carefully walk atop a limestone ridge, gazing out at the sea. We're alone here, accompanied only by the silence and the spirits of the dead. It's unknown how many tombs lie here, how many still await discovery. The tombs here were most often carved in natural crevices, caves, and former limestone quarries. There are a lot of them here, so watch your step. Especially visible are the Greco-Roman hypogeia, underground burial complexes carved into the rock with small, low-lying vestibules accessed by steep stairs. Small niches called loculi were carved into the tomb walls, into which the body, wrapped in a shroud, was placed. I think I can go down and show you one of the tombs. After burial, the loculus was closed with a slab, as was generally done in Roman hypogeia and catacombs. By the way, the most beautiful ancient catacombs are here in Alexandria. I'll show you those soon. In this large necropolis near the Arab Tower, both mummified and unmummified remains have been found. Most likely it was a burial place mainly for Greek settlers. Several anthropoid terracotta sarcophagi resembling pharaonic coffins have also been discovered here. The tower is a symbol of Taposiris Magna, known by various names: the Pharaohs of Abusir, the Abusir Tower, or Arabs Tower. The approximately 20-meter-high monument has a square base, a hexagonal center section, and a cylindrical upper section, much like the building it was apparently modeled after, the lighthouse on Pharaohs Island in Alexandria, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. It dates from the reign of Ptolemy II, and thus was most likely built around the same time as the Pharaohs of Alexandria, perhaps as even a 10 times smaller miniature version of it. This monument provides us with invaluable insight into what the lost symbol of Alexandria might have looked like. But even so, we still don't know many things. For example, how its famous light worked, which according to the ancient authors was visible from a distance of 30 nautical miles. Some believe that at night, light was emitted by a large fire lit at its top, while during the day, huge mirrors reflected the sun's rays. Some believe that the lighthouse also guided ships with loud sirens, emitting sounds through mysterious mechanisms. Well, ultimately, the Pharaohs Lighthouse was destroyed by a huge earthquake that struck Lower Egypt in the 14th century, an earthquake that would strip the pyramids of Giza of their facings. The Tower of Abusir was certainly not built as a lighthouse. It served only as a funerary monument, although it could be used as a landmark by navigators, both at sea and on Lake Mareotis. It was used by Muslim invaders in the 7th century as a watchtower and observation point, keeping track of caravan movements, hence perhaps its traditional name, Burj al-Arab, Arab's Tower. Around the tower we encounter a multitude of rock-cut tombs, both small, shallow ones housing only a single body, and long underground passages. New ones are still being discovered, and as we can see, archaeological work is still ongoing on other previously discovered tombs. Of course, not now, as most archaeological missions in Egypt, due to the omnipresent, never-ending heat even after dark, suspend their work until around September or October. The ancient site of Taposiris Magna is currently being prepared to open to the public. It will undoubtedly become one of Alexandria's greatest tourist attractions, especially if Kathleen Martinez's great dream finally comes true. Finding Cleopatra's tomb would be an archaeological sensation, comparable only to Howard Carter's discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb in 1922. So, I hope to return here soon.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, I recommend you to watch my others video from Egypt. I also filmed some episodes in Italy, Greece, Turkey and Malta. And if you're interested in ancient Egyptian history and beliefs, I recommend you to watch my podcast.
Of course, I'd like to thank all the supporters of my channel, especially my dear patrons. Thanks to you, I can create this content. Last but not least, don't forget to subscribe to my channel to be up to date with new episodes. And see you on another ancient site.